most couples consider breakup, separation, or divorce because they don't have a shared vision, or they're uncertain if their vision aligns any longer. Maybe at one point of the relationship you were aligned, and then you start breaking off into these separate paths, and there's this fork in the road, and you're like, wait, maybe we don't want the same thing anymore. Are we meant to really honor that maybe we're wanting something different and our values have shifted, our pattern of where we want to go in life has shifted? Or can we get back on the same path and find shared values and co-create a vision together? Because we need aligned direction, and aligned direction means that our habits actually line up with our goals, and the lifestyle we are choosing actually is aligned with the direction we're wanting and the dreams we have for ourselves. But if we're not lining our actions and our words, we can't trust ourselves, and let alone your partner can't trust you, or a potential partner can't trust you. And so this month, it's really about asking yourself, what am I intentionally creating? And this week, I want you to ask yourself, what values are you really rooting your life into right now? What values are you organizing your life around? What are like 3 values, 3 things that you can continuously root into? Right now, you might be valuing rest. You might be valuing investment. You might be valuing grit. You might be valuing financial growth. You might be valuing sacrifice. You might be valuing community or nature or time in connection. You might be valuing home. You might be valuing nuclear family. You might be valuing health or nutrients or nourishment or play or fun or grief and deep processing. Whatever it might be for you, what are you valuing right now, and how is this season supporting you? Because your values can shift and change. It's okay to have seasons where what your main priorities are change. We don't need 50 goals for this month. We need 3 priorities that we can keep coming back to and say, hey, am I lining up with those values? Am I lining up with those priorities? Am I creating and organizing my life around the direction I want to go right now? What's important to me right now? I'm not evaluating myself then on wanting to be 10 steps ahead. I'm evaluating myself on what's important to me right now in this season, in this month, because there's stepping stones to everything. And so in relationship, we can get really insecure when we don't know what we're intentionally creating, and we're trying to attach our security to somebody else giving us clarity on what they're intentionally creating with us. But we have to know what we're creating for us first before we can ever have secure attachment. Then we come into partnership or bring that to our partner and say, hey, can you support me in intentionally creating this? I just want you to know that I'm intentionally creating this for myself. Or let's create a shared intention of what we're creating together, even better. And I think every couple needs something that they're intentionally creating together in order to weave in individuality and togetherness. And when we have something we're creating together within a relationship, it just creates this beautiful snowball of momentum of deepening your roots in your relationship. And so there's seasons where we go through evolutions where what you're intentionally creating looks maybe really different than last month, really different than last year. Think about having a child or going through a big rupture within the relationship and then reorganizing the relationship around new values, around new asks and needs, and new priorities, really. And I think we have the autonomy within relationship to ask for relationships to change. And so again, ask yourself, what am I intentionally creating, and how can I surrender to the twists and turns of life? Because challenges are going to arise, and if you can root into your 3 values of priority, you can continuously scan yourself, scan your life, scan your lifestyle, scan your habits for whether or not you are lining up with a secure attachment with yourself. If you can trust your word, if you can trust that your creation is worth it enough to put the action behind that creation, to put that action behind each and every daily hour, minute. We don't need to get that minuscule, but each day, are you really aligning with those values? Because otherwise we're not operating out of authenticity. We're maybe operating out of fear or outdated patterns. We're maybe living in uncertainty versus the certainty of the decision. The mindset of these priorities, the mindset of our goals has so much power in us actually finding the needle moving in our lives. And so we get to be flexible versus rigid, but the more that we can be so dedicated and clear in what the values are, then our life organizes around those values versus being so rigid in how we're living out those values. Because today I might live out my value of creation or my value of peace much differently than tomorrow. Today I might meditate and get out in nature. Tomorrow I might find peace by organizing my home or cleaning, or I might find peace by getting a lot of things done and checked off my to-do list because that brings me peace that day. And so you can play a little bit devil's advocate for yourself, but really ask yourself, am I lining up for my values, and really getting honest with ourselves? Is this providing me this value today? And how am I staying dedicated to these things that I value? It makes a huge difference. And then we get to invite people into holding us accountable to our values. My 3 values this month are this. How can you hold me accountable to that? When we check in as a couple, or when I check in with my friend or my sister or my brother or my mother or my whoever it may be, a coworker, how are you holding me accountable to, hey, I'm valuing rest right now? And when I get spun up and I'm not resting, how are you saying, hey, girlfriend, relax? Not relax, but hey, what are you doing for yourself to find peace or presence today? Are you giving yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour? And so invite people into this with you. Use the somatic sound healing for the month to... It's free, the free recording that I provide on my Substack. If you're seeing this in other places, use that free recording to root yourself into your body, to come back to yourself and ask yourself again, what am I prioritizing? How can I root into myself? Because we want that alignment, and that alignment doesn't come when we aren't intentional with our daily action, when we're not even clear about what we're creating. And oftentimes we live in this mundane cycle of every day being the same thing, and we're actually operating on psychologically past paradigms of the day before, and then it becomes years ago, and we're living a recurring reality versus a new one. And so if you wake up and you say, what am I intentionally creating today? And then tomorrow, what am I intentionally creating today? You get to show up as a new version of yourself in a new reality with more abundance, with more peace, with more connection, or whatever you're calling into your life. But you have to choose that energetically and show up as that version of yourself now. This is psychologically so proven that we don't need, we're all recreating our past. I think it's like 90% of our thoughts are thoughts that we have had. I think it's more than that. We've had every single day for the last X amount of time. Like, we've had these thoughts over and over again. So the amount and the percentage of thoughts that are actually new, novel thoughts are so small that if you can start expanding your mind and your capacity to start thinking new thoughts, you get to start showing up in new ways and then seeing life reorganize around this new way that you're already showing up versus needing life to show you externally that you can feel safe in trusting this new way of living. And so in relationship, in secure attachment, we're often wanting somebody else to give us security that we get to live out this value or create this thing with them. But we need to show up as the version of ourselves that's intentionally creating that for ourselves now, and that somebody else can come meet us in that, because secure attachment starts with you first, and then you invite somebody in to co-create that with you. But don't ask somebody to show up differently to give you the security. You're gonna have to take a risk on yourself first. You're gonna have to take a risk on intentionally creating the feeling that you want aligned with the values that you're prioritizing first. All right. So this week, ask yourself, what values do you want to organize your life around right now that make you feel good in this season and support your well-being?